I have pulled apart small engines for a long time. I have watched owners haul perfectly good mowers to the curb because they saw smoke and assumed the engine was done. Most of those machines had nothing wrong with them that a $10 air filter and 5 minutes with a dipstick could not fix. Smoke coming out of your mower is not a death sentence. In most cases, it is your engine telling you something specific. And if you know how to read it, you can fix it yourself for almost nothing. Today we are going through all 7 reasons your mower is smoking, what each one means, how to check yours right now, and exactly what to do about each one. We are starting with the one that tricks more owners into unnecessary replacements than any other cause on this list. The first thing you do before you touch anything else is look at the color of that smoke. Smoke color is a strong clue, not a perfect diagnostic code. Blue or white smoke usually points to oil burning somewhere it should not be. Black smoke usually points to a rich mixture, too much fuel and not enough air, though overfilled oil or a flooded carburetor can also produce dark smoke. Each color narrows your search, and knowing when the smoke appears, startup, underload, or continuous, and whether you can smell fuel or burning oil cuts your diagnostic time in half. Now, the number one reason your mower is smoking, and the one that sends the most machines to the curb for no reason, is overfilled oil. Here is what happens. You do an oil change. You pour in a little extra because you figure more oil equals more protection. The engine starts, the oil gets forced past the seals, it gets pushed into the combustion chamber through the breather, and you get a cloud of white or blue smoke rolling off the exhaust. The engine sounds fine. It runs fine. But you are standing in a fog bank and you assume something critical has broken. Nothing has broken. You just put in too much oil. Check your oil level on level ground with the engine off and cool. Read the dipstick exactly the way your manual specifies. Some screw in fully before reading, some insert without screwing in. The oil level should be at or just below the full mark. If it is above that mark, even slightly, that is your problem. You grab a turkey baster or a small hand pump, you pull the excess out through the dipstick tube, and you check your level again. Do not run the engine overfilled and just wait for it to burn off. That forces oil through seals and into the air filter. Drain the excess, clean off any oil that got onto the engine with a rag. Then run it for 5 to 10 minutes. The smoke clears. Problem solved. Total cost, $0. But here is what makes this one dangerous to ignore. If oil got pushed into the air filter housing during the overfill, your air filter is now soaked with oil. A soaked filter restricts airflow. Restricted airflow causes black smoke. So now you have fixed the oil level, and you are still seeing smoke, and you cannot figure out why. Pull the air filter. If it is wet with oil, replace it. Air filters for most consumer mowers run between $10 and $25 at any hardware store. That is the complete fix. Now let us talk about black smoke specifically, because that one has a different root. Black smoke means rich mixture. The engine is getting too much fuel relative to air. The two things that cause this most often are a clogged air filter and a carburetor problem. And you always check the air filter first because it is free to inspect and cheap to fix. Pull the air filter cover. On most walk-behind mowers, it is 1 or 2 bolts, or it clips off by hand. Remove the filter element. Hold it up to the light. If you cannot see light through it, it is done. If it is paper, replace it. If it is a foam pre-filter, you can wash it with dish soap. Let it dry completely, and lightly oil it with fresh engine oil before reinstalling. Do not reinstall a wet foam filter, not even slightly wet. A wet filter restricts air just like a clogged one. If the filter is clean and you are still seeing black smoke, you are looking at the carburetor. The most common carburetor issue on consumer mowers is a stuck float needle. That needle controls how much fuel enters the bowl. When fuel degrades and gums up the needle seat, the needle sticks open. the bowl floods, and the engine runs rich. The fix is a carburetor cleaner soak, or in worst cases, a carburetor rebuild kit. Rebuild kits for Briggs & Stratton or Honda carburetors run between $8 and $30, depending on whether you go aftermarket or OEM. Do carburetor work on a clean bench in a well-ventilated area, away from flame, sparks, and food prep surfaces. The job takes about 45 minutes the first time. Stale fuel is a major factor here, and it has been causing small engine carburetor problems for years. Fresh E10 gasoline is acceptable on most modern small engines, but do not use E15 or E85. Those blends are not approved for small engines by any major manufacturer. The real problem is usually fuel that has been sitting. If you store your mower over winter with fuel in the carburetor, the fuel separates, attracts moisture, and leaves a varnish residue on every surface it touches. The fix going forward is simple. Either drain the carburetor completely at the end of each season, or use fresh stabilized fuel. Ethanol-free fuel can reduce moisture-related problems if it is available in your area, but it is not mandatory for every mower. Now, here is where it gets interesting, and where the diagnosis branches into territory that most owners never check. White or blue smoke that does not clear after the first few minutes of running is a different story. That is oil burning inside the combustion chamber, and it is coming from one of several places: worn piston rings, valve stem seals or valve guide wear, a gasket leak, or a breather problem. These sound scary. Most of them are not. On engines equipped with valve stem seals, those seals can go hard after several years of regular use. The rubber dries out, loses its elasticity, and oil migrates down the valve stem into the combustion chamber every time the engine sits. When you start a cold engine and see a puff of blue or white smoke that clears up after 30 seconds or a minute of running, valve stem seals or valve guide wear are one possible cause. But check oil level, recent tipping, oil grade, breather condition, and air filter first, because all of those can produce the same startup puff. If all of those check out and the engine runs fine after that initial smoke, seals or guides become the likely suspect. Valve seal or valve guide work is model specific. Some engines can be serviced without major teardown. On some OHV designs, you can pull the valve cover, compress the springs, and swap seals without removing the head. Others require head removal and more involved work. Use the engine service manual before attempting it. Parts cost between $15 and $50 depending on the engine. Not every small engine has valve stem seals. Briggs & Stratton's own valve service guidance notes seals are installed if equipped. Worn piston rings are a bigger job, but they are not a death sentence either, and before you start that repair, you need to know if that is actually what you have. Rings wear out after many hundreds of operating hours, which on a typical consumer mower can represent several seasons of regular use depending on how often and how hard you run the machine. The symptom pattern is blue or white smoke under load, not just at startup. When the engine is working hard, it draws oil past the worn rings into the combustion chamber and burns it. Before you tear into the engine, do a compression test. A compression tester rents for almost nothing at any auto parts store. Pull the spark plug, thread the tester in, and crank the engine several times. Compression specs vary by engine. Check your service manual for the correct specification. Some engines with automatic compression release systems will give misleadingly low readings on a standard compression test. If your readings do not match the symptoms, consider a cylinder leak down test instead, which gives a more reliable picture of ring and valve seal condition on those engines. If compression is good, the smoke is coming from somewhere else, and you have just saved yourself an unnecessary engine teardown. Now, the one that almost nobody checks, and it causes smoking that looks exactly like a major internal. A mower that lasts 20 years isn't built different? it's maintained different. As someone with over 20 years of experience working with small engines, this changes how I tell people to maintain them. The new Make It Last maintenance protocol shows you an easy-to-follow, step-by-step guide with over 100 pages of information about what actually kills these mowers and how to stop it. What's worth fixing? Which parts to buy? Walk hard or riding? There's one for both. Scan the QR code or tap the link up top. Make it last. Failure. The crankcase breather, also called the PCV valve on some engines, though on most small mowers it is a simple reed valve or a mesh filter inside a small plastic housing on the valve cover or the side of the crankcase. Its job is to vent pressure from the crankcase and route those vapors back into the carburetor to be burned. When that breather clogs up, and it does clog because it is filtering oil mist, pressure builds inside the crankcase. That pressure has to go somewhere. It pushes oil past seals, into the air filter, into the combustion chamber. You get blue or white smoke. You get oil in your air filter. You get oil leaking from places it should not be leaking from. Here is how you check it. Find the breather tube. It runs from the valve cover or crankcase into the air filter housing. Disconnect it at both ends. Look through it. If it is obstructed, or if the reed valve inside the breather housing is stuck shut with old oil residue, clean it out with carburetor cleaner, let it dry, and reinstall. If the breather housing has a foam filter inside it, replace that foam. Inspect the breather tube for kinks, cracks, oil blockage, or a failed breather assembly. Clean or replace parts according to the engine manual. Some breathers are simple serviceable components. Others are assemblies that should be replaced as a unit. When replacing the breather tube, use oil-resistant hose rated for the application, not just any hardware store line. On older machines, the breather tube gets kinked or cracked. The tube collapses under vacuum and blocks the vent. Replace it with the correct diameter, oil-resistant hose. Cut it to length. Push it on. Done. Now let us talk about the one that looks the worst and costs the least to fix. Oil spilled on a hot engine burns. It smokes. It smells. It looks like the engine is on fire. A small spill after an oil change may smoke briefly as it burns off. The difference between this and internal combustion smoke is where it originates. Combustion smoke comes from the exhaust. External burn-off comes from the engine block, the exhaust manifold, or wherever the oil hit a hot surface. Watch where the smoke is actually coming from before you diagnose anything. If it is rolling off the top of the engine or the exhaust pipe and fading after 5 minutes of running, you are burning off spilled or leaked oil. Wipe the engine down as clean as you can with a rag. Run it. Watch where the smoke is originating. If it fades and does not come back, you had a spill or a minor surface leak. If it comes back every time you run it, you have a gasket weeping oil onto a hot surface. Shut the mower down if smoke is heavy, persistent, or coming from a leak onto hot parts. Recurring oil on a muffler or engine is a fire hazard that should be fixed, not ignored. Find the source. Check the valve cover gasket, the head gasket, and the oil pan gasket. A valve cover gasket on most consumer mowers is a $5 cork or rubber gasket. Pull the valve cover bolts, peel off the old gasket, clean the mating surface, press on a new one, torque the bolts down to the manufacturer's specification listed in your engine's service manual, and reinstall. Done. Head gaskets on small engines are a slightly bigger job, but still manageable as a DIY repair. You drain the coolant if there is any. Most air-cooled small engines have none. You pull the head bolts, you lift the head, you inspect the gasket. A blown head gasket on a small single-cylinder engine usually shows as a burn section between the cylinder and an adjacent bolt hole. The replacement gasket costs between $10 and $30. You clean both mating surfaces, Install the new gasket without sealant on most small engines, torque the head bolts in sequence to the manufacturer's specification, and reassemble. A mower with a head gasket problem may still run, but it should be repaired before extended use. A failing head gasket can cause oil consumption, power loss, overheating, crankcase pressure problems, or worsening leaks depending on the engine. Do not dismiss it as minor. Fix it and move on. Now, the one that is most likely to be misdiagnosed as a tipped mower problem, but is actually a recurring maintenance failure. If you tilted your mower to clean the deck or sharpen the blade, and you tilted it with the carburetor side facing down, oil migrated from the crankcase into the air filter and possibly into the combustion chamber. Before tipping the mower, shut it off, let it cool, disconnect the spark plug wire, and keep the wire away from the plug. Then, follow your manual for the correct tipping direction. In general, keep the air filter and carburetor side facing up unless your manual specifies otherwise. Gravity is pulling oil toward whatever side is lowest. Keep the carburetor on top. If you tipped it the wrong way, set the mower back on flat ground, pull the air filter, replace it if it is oil saturated, and run the engine for 5 to 10 minutes. The oil in the combustion chamber burns off. Smoke clears. But if this keeps happening, if you are seeing this same pattern every season and you keep tilting the mower the same way, you are destroying your air filter repeatedly and potentially fouling your spark plug. The prevention is simple and absolute. Check your manual for the correct tipping direction and follow it every time. While you are dealing with any of these smoke issues, pull the spark plug and look at it. Plug condition is a free diagnostic tool that most owners skip. A healthy plug has a light tan or gray deposit on the electrode. A plug with a heavy black sooty coating tells you the mixture has been running rich. Too much fuel. A plug coated with wet black oil tells you oil is getting into the combustion chamber. A plug with white or chalky deposits suggests the mixture is too lean or the engine has been running hot. Read the plug before you clean or replace it. It confirms what your smoke diagnosis already told you. Inspect the plug during diagnosis. Replace it if it is fouled, worn, cracked, incorrectly gapped, or due by the engine's maintenance schedule. Some engines call for seasonal replacement. Others specify longer intervals. If you have a fouled plug, replace it after you fix the underlying cause. Putting a new plug in without fixing the cause just fouls the new plug. Fix the cause first. Now let us put all 7 together and give you a decision framework. You see blue or white smoke at startup that clears in under a minute. Check oil level first. If level is correct, check for recent tipping, breather condition, and air filter. If all of those are clear, suspect valve stem seals or valve guide wear on engines equipped with seals. You see blue or white smoke continuously under load. Do the compression test using your engine's service manual specs. Low compression means ring and cylinder wear. Good compression means look at the breather valve and the external gaskets. You see black smoke with a fuel smell. Pull the air filter immediately. If the filter is clean, move to the carburetor. Drain it, clean it, inspect the float needle. You see smoke coming off the engine body rather than the exhaust. Look for the source of the oil. Wipe it down, run it, find the leak, fix the gasket. If oil is recurring on hot surfaces, fix it promptly. It is a fire hazard. You tilted the mower and now it smokes. Check the air filter for oil saturation. Replace if needed. Run it 5 minutes. Done. Most of these conditions do not require a new mower. Many common smoke repairs are inexpensive. Oil correction, air filter, spark plug, fuel cleanup, or simple gaskets. But if diagnosis points to worn cylinder bore, broken rings, or major internal damage, compare repair cost with the replacement value of the machine before committing to a teardown. The machines that end up at the curb with a free sign on them are almost always repairable. The owners just did not know what they were looking at. What you do with this information is what separates the owner who buys a new machine every 6 years from the owner who runs the same machine for 15 years and knows every sound it makes. The second owner is not luckier, they are just paying attention. If you want the complete diagnostic and maintenance protocol, all 7 causes mapped out in sequence with the exact parts, part numbers, torque specs, and seasonal maintenance schedule that keeps these problems from coming back. That is in the description. Everything in one place, built for owners who intend to keep their machines running. If you have seen smoke from your mower and you figured out the cause, drop it in the comments. Tell me what it was, what you did to fix it, and how long it took. That information is worth more to the next owner reading this than anything I can tell them.